So live recording has started, everyone. Good evening and welcome to our class. It's it's wonderful to have you here again. Yeah, because it feels like an awfully long time. Because I took a little bit leave to take care of my health, and yeah, I'm fine. I'm ready to get back to work. So today we'll be looking at CSS. So we have been doing HTML for a while, and I think that a lot of people have done HTML and they're like, oh, HTML, that's fine, that's cool. Yeah, a lot of people are like they have already done HTML and HTML is easy. But now we are going to turn up things a little bit, make things a bit more interesting. And how do we do that? Very easy. We are going to start working with CSS. Yeah, we are going to start styling and doing a lot of amazing and cool things. A lot of just we are just going to be doing so many amazing things with CSS. Actually, today, just today, um I drew a picture with CSS. Yeah, and it was so amazing that when you start working with CSS and CSS, I'll tell you the truth. Good CSS is hard, very hard, and you'd have to pay really close attention. And to be honest with you, you're not going to be understanding a lot of things I'll be saying. Not like HTML. I'll try, as much as possible to do a good job, but just telling you, when you will not be understanding most of the things I'll be saying from now. And it only gets much like worse from here onwards. It does not get easy. It only gets easy when you get to a point where you have known the basics, then it starts getting easy and things start to make a lot of sense. Yeah, to be honest with you, things that I were taught 1 year ago is only making sense to me now. And I am being plain honest with you. They are only making sense to me now. So that is what is going to be happening. So it's nothing to be scared about, but it's something for you to take your time and put in the work that you need. Because man, things are really hard. Coding it's not easy, but it's doable, especially, and it pays if you put in the work, put in the work to learn what you need to learn. Then another thing is that I want you to have an open mind. A lot of people will be like, no, I don't like online classes. I'm hoping that everybody here is Igbo so I can switch to Igbo in sometimes. Okay, I think I cannot do that because this is like a global stuff. Um, mm, that's like multi-state stuff, so I can't really use local dialect. But a lot of people are like, no, I don't like online learning. No, I prefer physical, one-on-one. But to tell you the truth, if you want to thrive, start learning it from now. Start now to master working online. We call it remote, learning remotely and working remotely, because even you sef as a developer, most jobs now, most of them are hybrid. That means you get to work remotely and you get to work physically, and some are entirely remote. And actually me now, I'm looking if I see a hybrid role, like the due to there are not much really tech roles in Anambra State, like Anambra State as a whole, there are not much tech roles. So it's even hard for you to see that hybrid. So if you see roles, mostly they'll be in Lagos, remote, all this kind of stuff. And you have to learn how to network with them. A lot of the I think that we think that Anambra does not have developers, but Anambra as a whole, I'm not talking about Niue, I'm talking about Niue, Onisha, and environs. They have developers, but those developers are isolated from the rest of the world, from the rest of the developers, like all over the country or even within the state. Why? Because they believe Imagone, sorry, Anambra, they believe in like physical something. If you're telling me something, if you want me to buy something, I have to be seeing a physical product. I have to be like seeing that stuff. I have to be seeing you in order for something to work. You don't really believe in the, or they have not really gotten used to the concept of online system, remote, um wireless communication, stuff like that. They have not gotten used to those type of things, and it's caught a lot of developers. I know like a lot of develop I think most people, some people have met me and they be like, I'm the first developer they are meeting in on Ishabi in Anambra State. But me personally, I've met a lot of developers, but the thing is that they are not connected. We are not connected to each other here. We are just disconnected from the rest part of the country, other part of the country. So I think one of the edge I had was I didn't connect with a local community first. I connected with an online community first. A lot of people like they connect with their local community before they start, meeting all these online but me, I started with online community. Where I learned online. The hub is, I don't know if they have a physical office, but I know it's based in Lagos, right? And they organize trainings for over, how many were we then? We are 21,000 people. Yeah, you see 21,000 people. I have met a lot of people from that, like made a lot of friends, a lot of acquaintances, a lot of connections that are even helping me now to like get jobs, get remote jobs and others. So open up your mindset. The major people I'm even saying this for are not even here, but I'm hoping that they will see this. Open up your mindset to the endless possibilities of an online community. Like, you guys have to really, really explore it. It's not something that you can, it's not even yourself. It's not something that you can just put off. You have to start learning to be communicate. I think one of my gifts to you is at the end of this training will be giving you like access to some online communities that I'm part of. You get, that's I think that's something that I can do. And you guys just, this little prep talk before we start doing hard things is to open up your mindset to like leave the Anambra way of, leave our old habit of I need something that I can see, feel and touch. Learn to connect and interact with online communities. If you want to go far in tech, if you want to cross barriers, if you want to land like gigs outside, you have to be visible online. You have to like be visible online. You have to have a LinkedIn, you have to have a Twitter, you have to, you have to do things, and you need like the whole world is your stage, and you need that stage to be able to like get to the point that you want to be. And like I always tell you guys, have a purpose, a direction and a niche in this tech. It's not about tech. In fact, if I'm even angry, sef, I'll put it to you. I'm even angry because a lot of people are just trooping into this tech. A lot of people are just saying tech. But what solution are you bringing to tech? Most people are not joining, they're not joining for the passion, they are joining for the money, which is very valid. But if you're joining for the money, what solution are you bringing to the table? What value are you bringing to the table? What value do you think that you have that people can buy with their money? These are questions you ask yourself in order to like have a direction. There are many niches in this tech. There is artificial intelligence, there is robotics, there is health tech, there is analysis. That is people that do like heavy data analysis and visualization for companies. Like, there are just so many places you can branch. You can even create your own niche self. You can even be the one that creates a niche that other people start wanting to buy into. You get? So make sure you have a direction and a goal. I don't think I had a direction when I started. It was just to learn how to do this. Like, it sounds fun and I wanted to learn it, and that was how, like, it was from passion. And then attending talks, seminars, interviews with people. Now they ask me these questions and I ruminate over them. I go through them and I try to find out my purpose in tech and what I want to do. And that is what I want everyone here listening to me to do. So enough of preaching. Let's get into coding. So moving on to my next slide. Where is that? Okay. So, what is CSS and why use them? So, I posted, I added a rhetorical funny question. You don't go around naked, do you? Obviously, answer is no. No one goes around naked. So, there you have it. That is the use of um that is the use of CSS. We use CSS to cover HTML's naked body because I mean you can't just go around like naked up and down. You can't do that. You have to wear something to cover yourself, beautify yourself, get your riz and raz on, you spray some perfume, smell good, look good, you have I think everyone in this world have a duty to look good because you can't just going around looking homeless. You have to, even if you don't have much, um, just wash your clothes, make sure they are ironed, and get on some good perfume or use a good soap to bath so you smell nice. Things like that makes you look beautiful and stand out. Yeah. And also don't forget about your teeth. Very important. So that's why we use CSS, and that's just it. We use CSS for styling something. CSS makes like everything so fun. And then CSS syntax. And now at this point, I am going to reshare and share my entire screen. Okay, so I'm going to stop presenting and yeah, going to now share my entire screen. Y'all can see my screen, right? Okay, so ah yeah, I'm gonna leave this. So this is our screen. So how to add CSS to HTML? That is it. So before I continue ahead, so in this what is CSS and use why use them? Let me show you a very like visual representation. CSS can make something like this. This is pure HTML. Go from this into this. How beautiful is it? Like shebi una dey see this thing wey I dey see, so like how amazing is this? Like you can spin up this ridiculous with this ridiculously looking guy and turn it into this. Just how cool. Like these are endless possibilities you have with HTML, with CSS I mean. So how to add CSS to HTML? Basically there are three ways this end for you guys. This is what you'll be working with today. So I just did a little bit intro, and now I'm going to close all of them. So I'm going to now create another index.html. Okay. Before someone asks me why will I have index.html, you can see they're on different folders. They're not on this. I have three. This one is at the root folder here. This one is inside CD CSS folder, and this one is inside this CSS class folder. If I were to deploy all these folders, please, I can only have one index.html in all of them. If I want to deploy it, then I'll have to deploy just CSS class, not CSS or cohort one. I'll just have to deploy CSS class. I can only have one index.html. Either I do that or I go ahead and change the other index.html. And the index.html, if I were to deploy this entire CSS folder, the index.html should be at the root folder and not here. If you do that, it won't deploy. Thank you. So we build up our skeleton with our abbreviation. Name it registration form. My God, why is this place so hot? So hot. Oh, I thought that we are even in a nice weather. Okay, so Let's say I have a couple of elements here. I have div. This is just for practical purposes. So I have this div and I have like fancy text introduction. I forgot to mention the full meaning of CSS. It means cascading style sheet. You can read about the history a bit later. I didn't bother to check out the like history of CSS. I just know that it's used for styling documents. So I can have something like this cascading style sheet. And let me close this pot and open another pot. So this is how it is, right? Boring stuff. So what if I wanted to add colors to it or just spice things? There are three ways I can do that. One, we call that inline styling. Inline, INLINE. That's inline. Then next we can use the style element, and the last we can use an external style sheet. These are the three ways that we can add CSS styling to our HTML. So the first one, inline styling, it just works like this. Add a style attribute. You can see a style attribute here. Click on enter, and then inside, don't mind this thing, just being stupid. Then inside you can now add any property you want. So I can add I think CSS syntax should have come first before the others. So the the basic way that CSS works is just very simple. It works by property, property, so value. This is just the syntax it was. Then you have to put your column. This is just CSS. This is just how CSS works. CSS has what we call properties. Properties are like special keywords in CSS that does really fancy and really cool things. And the value means like, if we have a keyword, at least I should be able to have like multiple values I want to choose from. For example, now if I have like a property of color, I should be able to choose two different colors, right? So the value represent the different colors that color can have, right? So this is just basic syntax for CSS. But now, the medium of CSS that you're using, by medium I mean whether you're using inline or you're using style in the head or you're using an external style sheet, would depend how you are going to be placing this property and value. So just imagine I have this external style sheet now, right? And I want to add a style to this element. If I copy it, like if I have color is to red and I copy it now and I paste it inside this style.css like this. I just paste something. Let me just copy it. I copy this, Control C, and I paste this in here. Don't mind, let's just assume everything has been connected and everything, and let me comment this out. Control slash should comment it out automatically. So if I have something like this, does it make sense? And imagine where you have like multiple this thing, multiple properties does value. Let me try to duplicate them. So imagine you have different properties is to value here. Color, you have display, you have flex, you have position, you have, name it, anything, font family, any type of CSS property that you want. It does not make sense because you're just adding something inside one document like that. Or yeah, which particular place should the browser apply that style? You didn't say, right? So it just makes absolutely no sense. So that's why we use what we call selectors. But now these selectors, the thing is that that's why I say that the basic syntax of CSS is just properties to value. Anything else that you are now adding now, it depends on how you are using it. Enough of that. So here, let me say I want to give the color. I want to give this a color of red, right? This is a color of red. You can see that I just added property is to value. Now, I don't know if you're asking like how did I select it. See, the how I am able to like select the particular element I want it to like apply that property to is because I'm already like applying the CSS property directly on the element itself, the element that I want to give a color. Like, so if I think a nice way that I can just so that save time and make things a bit fast, just do something like this, and I can do control B to collapse this, control B to collapse this stuff. Yeah. So just get rid of this. So I don't need to do anything else here again. Why? Because I am already like selecting that particular element and styling it. So I'm already doing selecting here directly. So this is one way to style inline, to style CSS. So what if I don't want to do that and I have a bunch of CSS and I don't want to like complicate my HTML already. I can use this style element. When you are doing inline CSS, the style that you will use is called an attribute. But when you are using a style like this, we call it element. So now if I want to do this, I now have to select the element, right? I have to select the element. Oh yeah, which element do you want to apply that styling to, right? So that's where later on we'll talk about different selectors. So a very straightforward way to select an element is to call the name of that element. So how it works is that if you write the name of the element, like in our case div, then you put two curly brackets like this, and then you can now add any property that you want. Now CSS will just go into the body and look for any div. If I have like 5 divs here, it's going to do that. So um no, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to like waste time explaining this. So I'm going to give it a background color of what color should match with gray. I think black. So we are going to learn a lot. We're also going to be I'm also going to be teaching you how to select colors. um right way to like add colors, because you can't just be adding a lot of colors that don't make sense together. There's a rule that we follow when we want to add colors. I'm going to explain this here. I'm also going to link to the video that will explain that perfectly for you. So I can say what color would go red? Okay, we have 60% white. Okay, this is the text. 60-30-10 rule, right? So the 30% down. Okay, so no, let's say that I want a background of let's see a darker background, because red is very shouty, so we need something to like dull it up a bit. So let me say we have like dark gray or dark something or just black. Just going to give you a background color of black. Right, no, this looks absolutely terrible. So let me just pause. Think this is not bad. So let's say I do this. So you can see that it's actually applying the styles immediately. By the way, just remembered, if you want to like, I think someone was having difficulty with having to like close the portal and open the portal. If you want to automatic your work to automatically refresh every time you do this, you have to go put it on auto save. By now you're not putting, if you put it on auto save, and you have to like manually click S, most people, but I set my own to auto save. How do you do that? Go to settings, click on settings, see settings, so you click on it, then you type what you want. You can see it already even says that because I type it auto save. So you can see auto save. Now this auto save now, it will tell you how you want to save it. By default it will be off. You can see it's default, so you can choose after delay, on focus change, or on window change. On window change means when you close your window, your VS Code, then it will save before closing. On focus change means that whenever there's any changes, like there is space or okay, on focus is like when an editor loses focus. Okay, that means when you stop typing, right? Then after delay means automatically save a file, maybe like 10 seconds or 15 seconds after the every 15 seconds or every 10 seconds you save the file, right? That's okay. Let's read. An editor will change its automatically save after the configured files auto save. So that means every time something changes, after it will wait after delay means it will wait like for that time that you set before it will save automatically. So me I set my delay to 10 seconds. If you are going to choose after delay, you have to set like a time. So the time is in like milliseconds. So this is not 10, so this is like 0.00 something point 1 seconds. So it's like saves really fast and I can actually see when it's saving. So you just put 10. I can even put 1 and it will be super fast. But 10 is fine so that your system don't overload or something like that. And you don't need to click save anywhere. That's just once you actually change it, it has saved the settings and you can work and see your life. It can be reloading life. So that was it. um yeah, back to what we were discussing. So this is how to add using style, right? So what if like you want to use an external style sheet, you want to like link to a different style sheet, you want to like have a styles.css. So me, I already have a styles.css here, so I can just link to it here. I put link to css. Yeah. So but now we can say I have no style.css here, but what I have is styles. Is it connected? No, it's not connected. Why? Look at where my index.html is, right? It's inside this folder. And my styles.css is outside of that folder, right? So how do I fix up something like this? Simple. You can specify what we call like go back, like a way to tell a browser or to tell the computer to go back like from a folder, to leave that folder and go to like to the parent folder. That's putting two dots slash. You can see it now. When I do that, it goes back and you can now see it telling me should I choose class or should I choose index or style, and I can now choose styles.css, which I already have here. So you can see that something happened when I choose it. Yeah, it's because of this my styling here. So by default it adds what we call a margin, a padding, epoch sizing, or whatever. I want to be explaining what we are going to be using this in this class, but I might not really going deep into what they do now. It will be We are going to go deep into that in the next class, where we are going to build like a full page layout, and I'm going to be explaining the box model and other stuff too. So let me just comment that out now. So let's say I want to style the body. I just choose body, right? Choose body, and I want to give it a background color of let me give it aquamarine. Okay, doesn't look bad though. So I can give it this background color, and I can increase the font size and give it a font size of 20 pixels. So you can see that it automatically increased like the size of the text for me. So these are the three types of sorry these are the three types of styling we have: inline styling, using style inside the head element, and style sheet. So now, which is the best? Before I talk about which is the best, I want you to know that if you have these three type of styles in your HTML, which is not recommended, but let's say you have it, right? And they all have the same styles. The one with the most prevalence, by prevalence I mean the one that the browser would do or would listen to, is the inline styling. That is, I've forgotten what it is. A name that they actually called, like a scale of something, like a scale of preference. That if it has this, which one should it apply first? It will apply this one first. Then after this one, the next one up the chain is this one before the external style sheet. That is how browsers work, but it's not recommended. Don't try that at home. So the next thing would be, then which is the best to use? Any day, anytime, go with an external style sheet. Unless like you're not really, you just want to like, when I just want to like test out something that is not production, something that I don't want to like publish, you can go with you can always go with this, like go with styling a HTML inside the HTML document. Okay. So I know that I say that you should always use an external style sheet, which is true. Please always use an external style sheet. There are there are some libraries, or there is a very good library that uses inline styling to style its elements, which is Tailwind CSS. It's a framework. A framework is like a little like something language that was brought out of a language. It's still that language, but it has really nice features that make your life easier. So Tailwind CSS uses inline styling, but the thing is that after your inline styling, it has to compile it to an external style sheet. It will be the one to generate the style sheet from the keywords you have given here. So you can see it's still that same, always use an external style sheet. So I think that is enough talk, and yep. So using selectors. So I don't want to really go into this just going to delete the internal styling, because I'll be using a snap style sheet. Yeah, so just delete this. I'm not really going to go into much detail now. How I want us to learn this is, the best way to learn is by building. So every time we are going to do a CSS practical, we are always going to build something new. And as I use those things, I'm going to explain them. But this is just the basic that I'm going to give you now before we start building. It's just using selectors, and every other thing you get to learn them as we practice with more. But I will take it in a beginner level, like there's a first step, baby step, first step, till you get to the other steps. So selectors. So for that, I will take us to like an external document, an external what do they even call it? I don't know. Just okay. Just going to go into where is that stuff again? Okay. For me, I think my best go to for anything front end development should be this MDN web docs. Why? Because this is like the documentation, like the standard documentation, where you are going to get right from the source, direct from the source information about anything front end, HTML, CSS, or JavaScript, right? Then other stuff, other languages, now they now have their like their own documentation site. So my best go to is this MDN does, but most times they might not really explain it in a beginner friendly way. So you can always look for other sites like W3 Schools, CSS Tricks, Free Code Camp. These ones they are beginner level. So I'm just going to go back to it, CSS, so that we can start from the basics. My God. Yeah, you can always go through this, but like I told you, use MDM docs. But anytime you're confused, MDM docs will give you rich information, like a lot of information that you don't even know existed. And that's like a good way for you to get better. So you can see what I was saying, selector, declaration, that's property value. That is how CSS works. I hope you guys can hear me properly, please. If you need to tell me something and you can see that I'm not on the Google Meet screen, don't drop a comment. Just unmute yourself and talk, because there's no way for me to like know that you dropped a comment. Um, yeah, selectors. So we are going to be seeing more of these collect selectors later on, but the basic selectors that I want you to know the simple selectors and just the simple selectors. These ones are a bit more complex and we get to learn more about them as we go ahead. So simple selectors is just selecting with class selector. We have the class selector, we have the attribute selector. No, not the attribute, the class selector, the ID selector, and the type selector. These are the three most basic, three most simple types of selectors that we have, right? So let's start with the first one, the type selectors. So what is a type selector? Type selector is just selecting an element by its name, like we did over here. We just called it body and boiler. Yeah, you just selected the entire body and applied their styles, right? So this is for um type selectors. Then we have class selector. So a class selector means selecting an element by the class, sorry, by the class. So let's say this has a class of CSS, right? So weird. So we have something like, let me not use CSS, let me use CSS div actually. And that's the content of this thing. And I'm also going to give it an ID. So an ID, one thing you have to know about an ID is that any ID that you are using, you have to make sure, you just have to make sure that it is the only ID on that page. ID like has to be unique in a page. In an entire sheet, you cannot have an ID with the same name. Don't try that at home, please. In fact, don't try it anywhere, not just at home. So CSS ID, something like that. So we have this ID, and that's why we call it an ID. An ID is a unique, you can see. Always do this. This will also help you, like give you like little bit information about what you're doing. Defines a unique identifier which must be unique in the whole document. You get it? Its purpose is to identify the element when linking using a fragment identifier. That's trash. Scripting or styling with CSS. So just basically for now, concern yourself with styling with CSS. Then the class selector is like, it's majorly used to group like a lot of elements together. Like you want to apply styling to a group of elements, you do that with class. Like I can have like 5 days and give them the same class, but you can also do it with other types of selectors, but basically it's done with class selector. So for class selector, you have to first of all in the element add a class. For ID selector, in the element add an ID. Then when you now come to styles of CSS, this is type. So if I want to now select that div, what do I do? Simple. If I'm using class selector, let's go with class first. I use dots. Yeah, so dot means this is a class. Then the name of that class, which is CSS div, right? Yeah, that's the name of our class. And you have to make sure everything is the same. Name is the same, the name of the class, and dot. Dot means that this is a class selector, and I can give it a color of what color did we give it again? I'm going to go with a different color. Let me go with pink. I think pink or pale violet red. Kind of cool. So that's the CSSD, and that's not applying great. I think, yep. Okay, okay. I think it lost focus, so it's doing auto refresh. So this is for our class selector. So for ID selector, still the same thing, right? But the thing is that for IDs, what we use for representing an ID is a hashtag. So hashtag, what's the name again? CSS ID, I think. And give it a background color of background color of yes, let me look for good color. Add it blue. Now I can see my text. Bad color. So let's suggest color for me. I think this should be fine. Yeah, this is good. So let's do this pink. Just the user. I think this is better. So these are the three most simple ways to select an element, right? These are the most simple ways to select an element, and it works just fine. But the other complex ways, that's when you have like a complex document, you have like a lot of things I want to select, just a bunch of things I want to do. Now CSS, this type of selection becomes really inconvenient. So combinator selector, let me just explain what they are. Now combinator selector is just selecting elements based on a particular relationship between them. Example, like parent to child, um, sibling selector. Like you have a sibling, like you're selecting between siblings, between parent and child, between child first, child last child, between great grandchildren, grandchildrens and great grandchildren. Then we also have the selecting every element. Yeah, we also have like what do they even call it? We're going to look at all these things later on when we start using them. Just going to reload this. So you can see these general sibling selectors, select every sibling. These adjacent sibling selects the nearest sibling, child selectors and descendant selector space, right? So this is something that you can really go through it on your own, but we will look at them later. Then we have select pseudo class selectors. This is like selecting elements based on a particular state. By state, what do I mean? You can see when this cursor now is on this thing, it changes the color to green, and it changes to like a hand symbol. This was done with a pseudo class selector, and the name of the pseudo class is elements is to hover. That is when they use this. Now elements on hover, the state that is this is called hover. Hover means moving your cursor over it like this. It changes the color and it changes the pointer. The pointer is this little thing that is moving. So we have so let's just look at it. Then you see starting by state, you mouse on hover, on click, you can see those things. On input, there are so many pseudo class selectors, right? And then we have pseudo element selectors. It selects and style part of an element. Example, you can do before and after. Before is used for adding, like I have this div right here. I have my div here, and I want to add another div before it, but I don't want to come and start writing div here. I can do that with CSS using before and after. Before is before that element, after is after it. It is majorly used for like when you are trying to be responsive, you need to like add another empty element just to close up things a bit. You use it for doing it. We have first line, selecting like the first line of an element. We have first letter, all those things that are not states. Other ways I can select that are not state or attribute. You do it like select first letter, first line, second letter, all these things. Last nth child, okay, nth child, nth child is not actually selected. I think nth of type, just things like that. You can see marker, um selection. Just you can go through all of them on your own, but we'll still use all of them later just to explain what they are. Then attribute selector. Attribute selector is selecting a HTML based on the attribute. You can see attributes that we use here, class, ID. You can also have other attributes. So you can select based on attributes, and it just works like this: the elements and the attributes inside brackets, right? And you can even go ahead to do attribute equals to value. You can see. Then this one selects every element that has this value. Is used to select elements with an attribute value containing, okay, this one is containing a specified word, right? Um yeah. So we have, like, I think there's also the one you use with dots. It just selects everything that contains a particular word. This one is used to select elements with specified attribute whose value starts with, yeah, the specified, yeah, this symbol is for starting with, this um exponentiation symbol is for that starts with. And then we have this used for select element that ends with, yeah. This thing that you're seeing here is even awesome because this thing is used in another part of coding called regex, regex or something like that. And we have this star. It's used for selecting, I think, all. It's used to select element whose attributes value contain a specified value. But this star on its own is like a universal. We call it a universal selector that selects everything. And yeah, that is it. That is majorly it. So this is all about selectors. But for today, I think what we'll be using today, we are going to be making use of the simple selectors that we have. We make use of universal selector, we make use of child selector and descendant selector. These are the um different types of selector we'll be using today. My god. Okay, class ends by 11 anyway. So moving on to the next slide, and in the next slide we have, yeah, so this is what we are going to be building today. So you don't have to worry about editing. We are just going to focus majorly on styling. I'm going to send the, if you want to code along, or if you just want to have it, okay, I'll just push to GitHub so I can have it. But if you want to code along, I'm going to send you like the markup, the HTML markup, so that you can now follow along with the CSS styling. But we are still going to do them one by one because I need to explain, like, form. We have not done form very well. So now building an HTML form. So let's get to work. So like I'm just going to delete this. Like I said, whenever you're working on something, you have to like specify. So this is what we want to work on. I'll just minimize this a bit and position this maybe somewhere here. So you can see something like this, just looks like it does not have any form of header, right? So I'm just going to start with the main, and it doesn't have footer too. I'm just going to start with the main. So inside my main elements, now this is how I style the project. When I look at a project, I look at things or elements that it needs to compare. Like I just remove, it's just like I pull off all the clothes and look at the HTML structure that it should have. For example, I know this is a form element. I know this is something like a H1 element, and I know that this one now has a link. I didn't even add link in my own, Jesus. Okay, let's know it should have a link, but let's say it does not have a link. Then these are input, form input. This tiny thing now is like I can use a HR element, I can use a div, but I'll use div and stuff. So before I continue, I want you to know that in regards to style, we have a container that is majorly used for styling. We call it a div. Yeah, the div container. What do we use it to do? We use it to style. like div, anywhere you see div, just the div is used for like um just containing things and separating them in a way that will make it easier for you to style them. That is why we use div. So we'll be using a bunch of div, and div just means division. We're going to be using a bunch of divs here so that we can properly style elements and position elements properly. So what I'm seeing here, I'm seeing like a general div container. I can call this container, give it a class of container, div dot container. If you do this, you can easily have like an abbreviation, something like that. That I mean generates a simple way to shortcut to type this out. Then I'm seeing like two div elements placed side by side. I'm seeing like two div elements placed side by side. So I'm seeing this is a H1, this is a form, but these two are placed in separate divs. So I can have like two divs, like div times two, like for two divs times two, right? And inside the second div, just one element that is there, which is like a H1 element, H1, which contains the text. I'm not going to write the text. After, I'm going to like copy my code and paste here, so that just to save time. Then inside the first div, I'm seeing things like I'm seeing this registration. I'm seeing this card itself, sef. I'm seeing this card, and I'm sure that this card is not even part of like, okay. Okay, yeah, this card is this first div, right? Okay. I can give it a class of card. Give it a class of card. And yeah, give it a class of card. And this one I'll give it a class of mm, something like name title, something like that. Make sure your class names are descriptive, please. Then inside here now, I'm seeing this registration element is like a H1. This is a div on its own. Then this is the form element. From here to here is the form element, and then this is a button which is also inside the form element. And now this is another div. So I have like div, form, and div, right? So I have a div, I have a form, and I have a div. So I'm just going to, inside here, I'm going to have a div. um I don't even know, I've forgotten the shortcut. Like if you want to have like three elements, but just create like this, a div. Then we have like a form, and we have like another div again. Inside this div, I have like, never add text directly to like a div. Always make sure you put them inside containers. What did I even use here? Okay, I'm not even giving this thing classes. My god. Title container. Okay, div of class title. So I'm just going to copy this interesting. Just going to copy it, and I'm going to paste this here. I'm going to call this div I'm going to give it a class of going to give it a class of title group. And then the form at the end of the form, I'm going to be having a button that is going to be submitting my form. Button is the, so whenever you're working with form input, you can either use um a button, or you use an input of type button. When if you use a button, the button has to be inside the form, and whenever it will just, even if without, there's no way you can't, you won't, it's fine if you, there's no way to connect it to the form, but by default it knows that whenever there's a button inside a form, you should act as the submitter for that form. And I think someone is trying to join in at this. Okay, it's our boss that is joining in. Onye Kachi, our manager. So back to business. So um then at the end of the div, we have this text already have an account login, and I'll just call it a, now it's this div. I'm just going to call it a, give it a class of login. Yeah, perfect. After, I'm going to put the text here, and then our form action. Now, what is a form action? A form action is like how to work with a form. Whenever you are having a form that you will collect inputs, you will collect inputs from people like login, you collect something, you want them to enter something, always use post as the action. And that action is get, but get is not good to use. Don't ever use get, always use post. Whenever you want to receive, like most forms you'll be building is to receive user inputs, always use post. Then the, sorry, this is not action, this is not for action, please, sorry, it's for method. It's from method, yeah. This is the method of post. Sorry. The action is like used for specifying the URL where you want to submit to. So let's say I have like a place I want to submit. I'll just go ahead and put the URL here. And when I click on submit, it to submit it for me. So that is about it. Yep. I think I'm done with any other thing. Now it's to start adding the input element, right? So in order to hasten things a bit, I'm going to do copy and paste, and I'm going to explain what I did. Just organize this. Uh, I'm actually going to add this part. It's supposed to be here. Okay, in this my own, I'm using main as the container, the general container, and Diva. So just going to copy from, I'm just going to copy the entire form element. Control C, and I'm going to paste it. Select everything here and paste it. So the first thing, so I think I'm good to go, except this part. Yeah, this part. She's going to be inside here. Now I'm going to also add another element we call span element. Span is just like an element that you can use to like for styling. Span is basically used for like, it's if you want to like style like a part of a sentence, because this is a sentence. You want to style a part of a sentence like this. I want to style this, so you can use the span to just like group them together. Yeah. So I use span to enclose this to make it a little bit better. So, and I'm going to copy the text that it's here. Yes. And I'm gonna go ahead and paste it right here. Okay. Okay. Not looking bad. I'm just gonna go ahead and format this to make sure that, yeah, it's fine now. Looks really good. So to format, you just either you right click and click on format, and it will just arrange it and structure it very well for you. Or you do I think it shows the shortcut there. Shift alternate F to format everything. Yeah. So is there anything else that I'm leaving out of the structure? Nope. Register now. Yeah, I think register now. I'm just going to pull where's my button? Register now. Instead of submit, it's going to be register now. Now this one, capture letter. You have to be a little bit faster than this so I can finish before 11, 10:40. Wow. So first thing first, if you want to create form input like this, you need to have a label and an input. An input is used for collecting input, user input. Input is used for collecting user input. That's this input right here. And inputs, they are like empty tags because they are self-closed. You don't have like another like ending tag just like this. Yeah. So whenever you're working with standard, as the standard is whenever you're working with HTML elements, I want to add a label, right? You have to place those inputs inside those labels, like place them inside the labels. If you are going to like um have like a name, by having a name outside, I mean like that place that you come, you see something like first name is to if I wanted to do, I'll just do first name. I just put this here, first name is to something like that. But I don't want, we are trying to replicate this and you see that it does not have something like that. You just have the text inside it. So I've done this. Okay, I've not added registration to the first div. Last title. Okay, I've done that. I've done that. Okay. So now starting with our form, um the first thing is based on the image. I'm just going to increase the image so I can be able to explain this and also shape this a bit and draw it out a bit. Yeah. So the first thing is enter your name. First thing is enter your name, right? That's like for name. So we have different types of inputs. Users can enter different types of input. We have input of type text, we have input of password. There are just so many different types of inputs that we can enter, right? There are thousands of them. There are too many, too different many different types of input that we can enter. So a very good way to see like the different types of input. I'm just going to go down here after my history. I'm going to do input, and you can see the different inputs that it's suggesting for you. Button, you can see checkbox, color, date time local, email, file, hidden, image, font, number, password, radio, range, reset, search, submit. See, these are the different like the totally different type of inputs that you can have. So, but now if you look at this enter your name, you should know that this is an input of type text, right? So I have my label here and I have this input of type text, and you can see the different attributes. I put ID, I put name in it, right? I put placeholder and I put required. I put about one, two, three, four, five. Apart from the type, there is one, two, there is four extra attributes in it. So first of all, I'm going to start explaining why I added those attributes. So the first attribute ID full name, I gave it an ID not for styling, but for this label element. Whenever I have a label for, the value that I have to add here should be the ID of that input. Why do you do this? Why do we have to do this? The major reason is for accessibility. Yes, if you have to, you're not just writing code. Is it accessible to everybody? By accessibility, I mean accessibility to like visually impaired people or blind people. There are people who actually use screen readers to read through website. Yeah, the world has evolved to that stage, right? So the screen readers read out those things out. So whenever they see a label, they'll have to be able to like have a way to identify what input that label belongs to, and the way to do it is using these four attributes, right? So these four attributes differences the ID of the input that it is linked to. So you always have to do that. Make sure you do that. And whenever you have something like first name is to, it is inside this attributes, this label that you added. So you can hover on this and you can read a little bit about it. ID of a lab, blah 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 blah, first element is blah 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 blah. You can read about it. But the major reason for using these four attributes is for accessibility. Then the next attribute is the name. Now, look at this name right here, this attribute. The reason why you should always have a name in every fucking, sorry for that word, in every input that you're having is because name is used for submitting to your server, to your back end. Yeah, you know, you submit a form to like a back end or where they can store it, right? So the name is like a way to identify the name of that field that you are trying to submit, and usually it's provided by the back end will tell you like what fields that you should use to submit the form. So you have to specify that field that the server or the backend has given you here in name. And you look at this case that I'm using, small letter and capital. This is called caramel casing, right? So it's used for the reasons for readability. Instead of having all small letters, you can use this. There are different types of casing. We have snake case, which means snake case is the one that you have underscore. This is called underscore. We have Pascal case. I think Pascal's case is either dash or capital letters. We have caramel casing, and I think we also have other casing. So most of the time, front end developers, you will largely work with caramel casing because you're working with JavaScript, and JavaScript is caramel cased. So that's why I use caramel casing here actually. If I'm in Python, I have to use snake casing. But you can literally use any casing that you want to use. Then we have a placeholder. Now, why do I have this placeholder? Now, the placeholder is like a text. This text that you're seeing inside this input now, it was done with this placeholder, right? Enter your name. So let me show you like how exactly this form looks like. I think this is it. Yep, this is it. Uh, you can see, right? This is how this form looks like right now. Very basics. It doesn't even contain this. This is how ugly HTML is. It is naked at this point, right? So you can see these things now. These things that are inside are the placeholders that we added here. That is what is inside it. These are the placeholders, and then we have the required attribute. So what does this required attribute do? It's used for like adding a check-in. If you want to make sure that the user enters everything before submitting, add a required attribute, which will like when the user try, like if I try to submit now, like where's my submit button? Hey, you see, please fill out this field. Like, so it was done without required. If I remove it now, to start from this. So I can put, there's also another attribute that I would like to add, which is called auto, which is called, I think, autofocus or something like that. Autofocus. So autofocus, what it does is that when you put autofocus, you can see that now. Just watch what will happen if I put autofocus. Okay. Yeah, I have to refresh again. So autofocus is like to focus on a particular element when the page loads, and by focusing it means it will just highlight it for the person to start typing. So that is something like really nice to use, but it's not there in our picture, so we have to stick to what we have. Yeah, don't mind the background color, you know, we already did it, so I'm still going to change that much later on. So and that was how like I was able to do everything. So now you might be wondering, when a user enters an input, where is it going to? So every input has a beautiful and specific property called value. Even if you don't set it, it has that property called value. So whenever someone types in something, it stores whatever the person types inside that value attribute, right? So you can now, when you're working with JavaScript, you can now use that name and value to like submit something and handle other stuff. So that's about it. And that was how everything here. So this is the input of type text. The next input is email. Now email is still text, but if you want to do like some sort of checking, type checking, so this input of type email, what it will do is that it will make sure that there is an @ sign, that if you don't add an @ sign or dot com or dot ng or dot something, if that text or the whatever you write here now is not, does not have this @ and this dot com something or dot ng, any dot something, then it uses it to like know that this is not a valid email address, and to tell you not a valid email address. So I don't think I currently have the time to like check through those things now. So then we have a password. So you can see I'm using input of type password. So what does this actually do? You can see that, you can see how it is, right? This is how it is. So if you want to be able to see it, you can have those ones that there'll be a checkbox and will tell you that check, or like an eye icon for you to be able to see it. So to do it is basically simple. Just like, if you want to be able to see, like, if you want it to be plain text, you have to set the input to text, right? So that's just how it was. Now it's in input of type password. Then confirm password, also input of type password, still the same thing. There's nothing that will happen. There's nothing unique that will happen now, because there's no unique something here. It will still work the same way. It is with JavaScript that you can actually set something here. Then now you can see that this one is different. Now this is an input of type checkbox, right? You can see it's checkbox, so it's used for like checking something, and also you can also make sure that it has a name attribute. And then we have our button. And now if you look at our button, I added like a different attribute, which is an access key. So what is an access key? An access key is a part of an accessibility feature that is used for, if you want to like submit something without, if you want to add like hotkeys. Hotkeys are like things that you type on your keyboard that you can use for navigating a page. For example, if I want to, okay, I think here now, if I want to jump to the search bar, I have to type space. Okay, in most browsers, if you type space, it will jump you to the search bar. That is an access key that was used. Browsers have them by default. So I added an access key on my own for submit. So this will like, for screen readers, for people like screen readers will read it out, like press S to submit or something like that. So if I type S, it should try to submit at this point. Let me just refresh. Yeah, I don't know why it's not working. Yeah, so I'll figure out why it's not working at this point. Figure out why it's not working. Let me just check. Let me check. Let's go to free code camp and find out why this is not working. So, input of types submit. Okay. Yeah, it's just key. So a single letter. So I don't understand. Let me just search for it. How to add, to how to add an access key to a button in HTML. You see how I got a problem now? I said, "Ah, let me search for it." This is what you do most of the times as a developer. This is how you navigate your life. You find the keyboard shortcut for the button. Okay, okay. The access. Okay. Yes. Okay. This their own works. So why does mine do not? Ah, I hate this type of scenarios. Honestly. Okay. Okay. I'll try to like open the site again, refresh, and type S access key. Is it because I added the type of thing? Okay, let me just add access key. The access key S. I type S, and yet nothing still happens. No, I give up. So, but that's just basically the way it works. So I can't seem to figure out why mine is not working. Maybe if I figure it out later, I'll let you know. So take a look at it again. Button access key S stress reliever button. There's not even CSS right here. I think someone added something. Yes, go ahead. Someone was raising a hand. I think someone told me to use let me try R. Oh, let me just use small R like so there's no. So R. Is it because of my styling? Let me remove every styling that I have at this point. Just okay. R. Oh my god, I give up. So Control Z. Let's leave things as they are now. Uh-huh. So I think that is about it. Another this thing that I would like to share with you before is other ways of adding other things that you can add, like you can have an input of type file for adding a file. You can see it here. Then you can have like an input that we call a range. You can have an input of type number, and you can specify like a minimum value for that. For example, if I run this, I think it's already running. Let me just find it and refresh. I think this is it. Yeah, refresh. So now, for the number now, input your years. How old are you? If I try to like click on, this is how it works when you do an input of type number. If I increase it, you see it's starting from 13, right? That means I cannot enter less than 13, and this is because of the mean and max that I specified, right? You can actually use them in password field, but it's not really recommended you do that with JavaScript. Then you can also set a pattern for a password field. So what is a pattern? A pattern like is a something that we verify like what that password field contains, to make sure like maybe you have like a password, it has to be a minimum of 8 characters. It has to have like a capital letter and a small letter. There's a regex pattern for that, and you can add it using this where is password field. You can, okay, exactly, look at it here now, this pattern now. So this pattern now, you add it like this, and what does it do? First of all, it makes sure that it is like not less than 8. This is what this part is doing. then it contains any letter from A to Z or 0 to 5. That means it has to contain like a capital or small letter and any digit from 0 to 5, and it has to be up to 8 or more than. You get this a pattern. So you can search for patterns online, or you can actually learn how this pattern works by studying um regex. This is let me show you. I think I'll leave this tab up so I can figure out regex. So I advise you to work with this one. Regular expressions are patterns used to match character combination in strings. So you can work with it and figure out how to construct your own regex, right? And how to use regex and what they mean. I think uh, there's this one that I normally use, which is I feel like it's very, very descriptive and it gives me everything I want. But it's actually in Python. So just work with this one and maneuver through it to find out how regex works and how to use it. So there's a regular regex expression and when to use slash, what they mean, things like that. And you can find more resources on that online. So, and then the next thing that I would like to talk about is range, input of type, sorry, radio. So what does input of type radio do? It's used for like when you have those fields in a form whereby you can only select one. You can only select one, right? So this is called an input of type radio. Now this one is checkbox, as you know. Okay. So, but the unique thing about this radio button, look at how it works, right? Input of type, radio, name, account type. Uh-huh. So you just have like two different inputs for for these inputs that you see here. You have two different inputs, right? So at initial time, when you have add those things, you will be able to select both of them. But if you want to be able to select just one, you have to make sure that they both have the same name attributes. This will tell the browser that they are both the same thing. Like so, this like where they can only choose one. So let me say that I added extra e here. You see, they don't have the same name now. And if I refresh this, I'll be able to like choose two different values at the same time, which is not what I want, right? So this is how to do it. I'm just giving you tips. And then we have like a drop down in type of inputs where you get to like add a drop down, something like this, right? So now this one is not done with input. You do this one with what we call select. It select element. This is it. You still have your label as normal with an ID, everything. Then select now. When you have a select element, you give different options that you want. So now the option is just like having a list element where you have a UL and you have LOI items, right? So it's the same way that this one works. Just that the only difference is that um you have to add a value to them, and the values have to be like in order, in numerical order. I think the value has to be in a numerical order. Now, the first one that does not have anything is that we won't be, this one is not part of the option that they can select. If you know, I think if you not specify this, they will not be able to select any particular one. So you have to select like these values. You have to add these values and give them like an um incremental number value. Then we have the last one I'll be talking about is this text area. So what is text area used for? It's used for like adding a field where someone can type a large amount of text. This input, right? You can see that I can even resize it. This input now is just used for adding simple line sentences, something like that. But let's say someone wants to add a big information, right? So you don't use input for it, you use text area, but they are still all part of a form. You use text area to do them, you give them ID, you see name. Then now the unique keyword that you have to give it is rows and columns. It's just like table. So I can either elongate, let's say that I want to give this more rows. No, I want to give this less columns to make it smaller. If I put 10 now, you can see that it will decrease vertically. You can see it decrease like vertically. But if I want to increase the columns, I have just like 50 columns, and you can see refresh, and I can have something like 13 rows. Yeah. For this thing, you can remove them with CSS. Remove this resizable stuff with CSS. And last but not the least, you can, if you look at this code, you can see something like field set, right? So this field set is like a container, something like a div or a semantic container for like um arranging different parts of a field, like different parts of a form. So let me show you how this form actually looked like when it has been styled. This was gotten from, I think, this. I'm just going to go back to this. This is how the form looks like, right? You can see like it has three sections. This section, this section, this section, and this section, right? So those few sets we are used to like group them like this. Now that has been a lot of talking. This class is going to be unbelievably long. So that has been a lot of talking, and yeah, I covered everything here. So range is like just giving a range of values. So the thing is that the more we work with more input and stuff, you're going to work with all of these things and you're going to love them. And we have adding CSS styles to your project. So I'm going to, let me just close up this. And which one am I working with? What, which one is this? Okay, this one, maybe one. Yeah. So I'm just going to Control A and Control C. I'm going to paste this in the comment section for anyone that wants to like join us to quickly design this. Where is this? Okay. I'm going to paste it in the comments in the chat. So anyone that wants to follow, you can just copy and paste and follow us along as we style. So I think a very important tool. Okay, now I'll tell you about. Okay, I have it here. I have it here. I have it here. So where is that site again? I think I closed it. Safe. Oh my God. I want to go to like the site where I downloaded that image. I think this is the site. I want to use this color picker tool. So this is a color picker tool. How is a Chrome extension. You use it for like, let's say you want to replicate something and you want to make sure that you are using exactly the same colors that they used. Where is the form that I'm designing again? Abby? Sure. Nope, 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 nope. Yeah. So let's say I want to know the color that they use. I can use this color picker too. I think if I want to color eyedropper too. Eyedropper. Color picker Chrome. So this was the keyword I used to. It's a Chrome extension that you can just add and add to your Chrome. So when I click on it, yeah, I can analyze this place now and copy out the color. This is the different ways of adding color. You can use we call this hex values and we call this RGB. I'm going to use hex values for now. I'm going to copy it, Ctrl C, because the RGB needs explanation. So I'm just going to use hex values. Hex value is just like a way of adding colors again. So I think this is the color that I need. Okay, I think I'll just specify this is black. I'd call this black, or maybe not. Yeah, I'll also copy this, and then this color. FFF is like white, not white, not white. Okay. So the first one I copied was blue, so that I can know. So just close it. So you can use it to like get the colors that was actually used. I feel like this blue is different from the blue on the bottom. Okay. Yeah. Okay, I think they are the same thing because it showed the same. I think someone dropped a comment. Okay, okay. Well, I can't do that now because this is like I've not properly set up this system. So I might send it on Slack or something. But always make sure you push to GitHub, please. I will configure my own later, but it's not something I can do right now. Whew. So let's get styling. So to style this, I'm going to need to crop out these things like this, and also have this one somewhere. Okay, I'll just bring it up whenever I need. So the first thing that I'm going to do, open my styles and Control B. So the first thing I'm going to do is this thing. I used a universal selector. Just going to close out this. I used a universal selector here. And why did I use a universal selector? So what a universal selector does is it removes what we call margin. Removes the padding and removes and universal selector selects everything and applies a style to it. So if I want to select every in my document, I use a universal selector. So this margin is like a space that the browser usually puts before an element, right? If I click on inspect now, just go back to element, and let me make this bold so that so you can, sorry, you can look at, they don't have any margin, they just have like, so if I, let me see if I can uncheck all this, uncheck them, you can see what is going on, right? You can see what is going on here. You can see, and if you hover over them, you can see now this box that is like yellow or a bit brown or something like that in color, it's called the margin. It's called the margin, and it's being outside, and it's always placed outside an element. Any element, every element has it, right? Then we have like a padding. Now the padding is not really that visible, but it's there. The padding is actually inside the element itself. So let me see if I can, if there's a way for me to like show you a padding, a card title group. Okay, registration. So in this registration, if you look at it, just look at it carefully, you see that it's not really, there's a little bit space around it, right? So if I put this padding now, no padding, and I hover over it, okay, it's still the same thing, but padding just put space inside the element, margin outside, padding inside. That's the major difference between it. Before you now have the actual content itself. Then just close it. Then we have this box size now, border box. What box size in border box means is that every element has a width and a height property, right? So box sizing means that anytime I have like I add a width, anytime I add a width or a height to an element, e should do it in a box model. Box model means that e should calculate everything together with that width and height I gave it. That means e should calculate, e should not add extra padding for me. For example, if I give it a width of 10%, the padding and everything should be inside that 10% for me. That's what box border box, the value of border box means. But if you don't set it, whenever you add like you add a height, it will also add extra padding for you, like extra something. That's like the first behavior of browsers. It's not doing anything now because we have not added any height properties and so on and so forth. So that's about this one. So I think that is enough talk and I should really start coding. So the first thing in our picture is the color. So so I'm going to change the color from this to what I copied. So which is just this. I have to put hashtag before it because it's a hex value. Yeah. Then okay, this one is done. Then the font size, I'm going to delete this. So I'm going to be using I'm going to have another selector called HTML. So this HTML like is like a root selector, what we call a root selector in HTML. What is a root selector? HTML refers using HTML selector, you are it's like you're talking about the papa, the origin of everything in this thing is HTML, right? So I'm going to give it a font size of 62.5, 62.5%. So this 62.5% is like is a size, right? Is a size. Let me show you the size now. Let me remove this picture. You see everything got smaller, right? So this size is equal to 10 pixels, 10 little dots on your system that you can see now. That's what this 62.5% is equal to. So how it's not that this is going to be the default styling, but putting it at this styling. Now when I want to style any other thing, I can style it relative to this font size. For example, I can use units that we call REM unit, which means root EM, root size. Root EM means I think I've forgotten the meaning of EM, but root EM is like root like size. EM is a unit, so root size. So it will, for example, if I say 2 EM, remember this is 10 pixels. It will do 2 times 10, which is like 20 pixels. Then to apply it, right? So it's like a way to for having like it's a way to like make your site look good on any device. A good responsive, we call it responsiveness. Then the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to display these things like this first. That's the first thing I'm going to do a display of flex. So I'll get their container. What is the name of their container? The name of their container is container is their the name of their class is container. So I'm going to select dot container and I'll give this a display of flex. So now there is what we call positioning in CSS. Positioning is a way to arrange elements on a page, and you can position elements in different ways. There are just so many ways that you can position an element. So many ways. Can I think the you have so for positioning we use okay, not position. We have position. Position is different. Display. Display is also like a way to position an element. Um Flex and grid are like the most common displays that we have. I think we have flex, grid, block, inline. And yeah, I think these are the most four common ones. You can actually see them from here. So you can see them, right? You can see them. So the most common one are these flex. If you over it, you can see what they mean. So what flex actually does is like a nice way to like display your things, to arrange. You see that in a way it looks like it has been arranged, right? In a way it looks like it has been arranged. And I just and then one thing with using this thing is that it is very responsive. It will make your things responsive. Very nice to use. Something that is really very nice to use. But one thing that I will have you know, one thing that I will have you know is that whenever you are designing with CSS, go what we call mobile first. Start with the mobile first. How it looks on mobile to make sure that it looks good on mobile. But for the purpose of this, we're going to this is just what I want to do. I'm not going to worry about how it looks on mobile, but this is what I want to duplicate. I'll be doing this I'll be doing this desktop first. That means I'll start with the large screen and go to the small screen. Okay. So let me just so this one okay, this is fine. Then by default, there are some elements that are block elements and there are some elements that are not block elements, right? There are some elements that are inline elements. A good example is like this div from their block level. By block means that they take up their own space in a document. By taking up their own space, like they are just like there. If you have them, it's like they are not dependent on other things. um for example, now input elements, when you add input element, for example, if these things were block level elements now, they will be on different lines, on a separate line, because they are different elements. But because the and input label and input are all they are all what do we call them again? They are all inline elements, so they are displayed like this. So I'm going to now change the display for them. I'm going to select all the I'm going to select first of all the label and input, and I'm going to give it a display of lock. You can see right now, right? It has arranged it horizontally like this, which is what I actually want, right? This is what I want. So now, this type of selecting that I selected two elements at the same time. Is like a way if you want to select like two elements at the same time, you do the first element, comma the next element. It will apply the styles to both of them. Before I continue, there's this style that I want. Okay, it's not really necessary here, but I'll talk about it. I'll talk about it though. Yeah, well, it is the root selector. So this root selector is like a way to like select, like apply styles, that any style that you declare here can be used anywhere that you want to declare. This root selector make use of what we call CSS variables. CSS variables are a very unique and amazing way to repeat styles all over. For example, this color now, I'm going to use it here, I'm going to use it on this button, I'm going to use it here. Instead of writing it three times, I can just write it once and now be able to like add it anywhere. So that in case I want to change that, I don't want to use blue again, I want to use like red or orange, I can easily like go ahead and select it wherever it is. You get the drill, right? So to declare a variable, you just simple, you do dash dash two times the name of the variable, which is going to, I'm going to call I think this is our accent color. Accent or primary color, because our primary color is blue. Primary color. I'm going to give it this value. This is how you declare, like you create a variable. A variable is a way to like store something that you want to repeat in many places. So now if I want to use it here, I have to use what we call var, the var function. This is a function. You see something like this, that means it is a function. And then you now just get this name, copy it and paste it right here, just like this. Yeah. And if I check, it's still the same thing, nothing changes, which is how it's supposed to be. So that's it. Then let's talk about the text color. So by default, okay, the text color is, I think I'm going to select every element and I'm going to give color. So I'm not going to be repeating this color that I'll be adding now, which is like give it a font of a color of, I'm going to give it, what is this color, I think. Yeah, this is like a gray color. Yeah. So after, I'm going to change this one now to black, but you can see that the color inside the text are like the same thing now. Then another color that I'll be repeating anywhere is the white color, which I will call my secondary color, which is white. But the hexadecimal code for it is FFFFFF. So on a good day, we are going to learn about colors. I think that's the next that we are going to do about colors and positioning and elements. That's what we are going to do next in CSS. Okay. So now anyway, I can now use this. But first of all, I want to be able to create this card, something like this. So we can be able to like group our things. Okay. Okay, now I want to shift this. I want to be able to shift this over here. Um I'm going to give this a justify content of space evenly, like this. And I'm going to give it the property of align items center. Yeah, I brought it down. So what does this mean? What does um this thing? So justify content means that when you give something a display of flex, when you give something a display of flex, um it usually works in a way like we have like child elements, right? We have like parents and we have child, which are usually called items, flex items, and the container or the parent. So now the container is like the one that houses the element. Like in our case, it is this div of class container. It houses our div of class card, and it then houses, look at, you see this div of class card, look at where it ends to. Then it houses two divs, this div and this div, right? So that's why it is doing like this. Then it has a justify content of space evening. So space evening means that you should add like even space between them and around them. That's what space evening does. Then align items. Whenever Okay. To explain these align items and this justify content, by default there is what we call a flex direction. Flex direction means like how it should like arrange those items, or how you should flex those items. Flex like arrange those items. So by default the flex direction is row, but I can change it to column. That is, row it means like horizontal. I can change it to vertically by saying flex direction and specify column, and you can see it brought it down for us, right? But this is not what I want. I want it to be like this. This is how I want it to be, right? So now whenever something is flexed horizontally, right, and you have like a justify content to it, you must always have a justify content to it, right? If you want to use align items like the child, how you want to place the child, you can align it. Whenever you're going to align it, you're going to align it vertically. By vertically means if I uncomment this now, it is going to center this thing. By centering, what will it do? It will push it down for me. So if I control slash this now, you can see it will push this thing down for me. This is aligning the thing center. So apart from that, I also want to bring this thing a bit down. So how do I do that? I can do that simply by adding a margin to the parent element. So I can do that simply by adding a just going to close it. By adding an outer margin, right? So where am I going to add a margin? I'm going to add a margin on my container. Yeah. So inside my container, I'm going to give it a margin of, if you want to center something in CSS, right, you use auto to center it, but it will not center right now, right? Because first of all, I want to be able to like push it down a bit. So I can give it something like um let me say something like the margin top can be um 40, right? Now this is way too much. 40% means like 40% of the parent element, which is like 40% of the space that you can see. So something like this, what will it do? It will just push it down for me and align everything very nicely in the center for me, something like this. I think I'm going to give this 20%, which is fine, because I am still going to like expand it and it will like move down a bit. And then I'm going to give this a padding too. I'm going to give it a padding, but the padding will just be a little padding like, actually it does not need a padding. It looks good like this. It does not need a padding. Padding like will add space inside element, but we don't need that. So the next thing that I would like to do now is our card content, which is like our form. So I'm going to select my card content, div of class card, right? Dot card, and I am going to give it a background color of remember where I declared this var variable, and I'm going to choose the secondary color. And yes, it's then I'm going to add a padding to it. I'm going to add a padding, a very good padding to it, to the inside. I'm going to add like a 40 pixels padding, something like this. I think this is fine. Now I think I'm going to reduce this to, let's look at the spaces around it. So what did I do this? No, okay, I'm going to change it later. So okay, it's I think it's a bit much because you can see that the padding is not that much. So Leave it at 20 pixels. Yeah, it's fine like this. Then we are going to give it a border radius. What's a border radius? You look at these elements now. The corners are rounded, right? You love how rounded they are, right? So you can do that by giving it like a border radius. So I'm going to give this a border radius of 10 pixels, which will just like cover out the edges for us. You can see, very nice, looks nice, right? Good. Then now we are going to work on the input elements. I want to work on the input element to space them. So inside the input element, in, input will like select every input. Then I'm going to give it first of all I'm going to give it a padding. Just, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to be giving it a padding and a margin bottom. A padding and a margin bottom. That's the thing I'm going to give to this now. So I'm going to give it a padding. Padding will add space inside them. A padding of 20 pixels. Let's see how it is. Oh, this is way too much. 10 pixels. Yeah, I think this is good. And a margin bottom. Margin bottom add space at the bottom of 5 pixels. So this is fine. You see, it's getting to shape now. Then a border radius. I'm going to give it like a little border radius too. 5 pixels. So looking at our border is like a gray. So I'm going to give it a border property. Border of, so you see that I didn't set the border, but it's giving me a default border because why? By default, it has a border, right? It has like there's a border that it's being given to it by default. So if I want to override that, I'll have to like give it my own border. And yes, this is my own border, which is looking nice. Now I want to add a width to it. I want to like extend the width. So to do that, I'll have to like add a width property, and I'll give it a width of let's see how 20 pixels would look like. That's really bad. I'm going to give it a relative width. Um, I'm going to let it feel like this is 60% of its parent container. Okay, that's 4. Let's try 80%. Okay, let's try 90%. 95. Let's try 95%. Okay. Let me go to yeah, I think this is fine. 350. Let's do 350. No, 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 no. 300 is fine. This is fine, right? And yes, okay. This is it. And yeah, now I'm going to style the top. I'm going to style the top of the element. So I hope I'm flowing along because I have been talking and talking and talking and talking. I hope it's flowing along. Okay. So I'm going to go back now to. So I'm going to set something that we call overflow. Um, Inside the body, I'm going to set something like overflow is to. Here, I'm going to set everything. Overflow is to hidden. So what does this overflow is to hidden means? It will remove like anytime that this thing now cuts like pushes any element so down that it's coming out of the container. You should just cut everything and you should not do anything against it. Okay, I think someone is trying to join. I don't know. And I'm going to give this a flex of wrap, flex wrap of wrap. So flex wrap, wrap. So what does this flex wrap do? It just wraps everything. Like if it gets too small, I think it will you see it will automatically come down. That is like that is what flex wrap does. So I'm going to just going to do this as back. So I'm going to start the top elements now. So which is what's the name of the element? Title group. So give the title group. It's still going to be flex, but title group. So what we are trying to style is this one. Oh, the color is actually blue. Okay. So this is I'm trying to select this tree. Okay. Um, I'm just going to give it a class of line. Make sure that's that. Yeah. So this is one pieces. Let's make it two pieces. And I'm not going to give it any weight anymore. Right. Further bottom. And yeah, just make it into two pieces. And we are going to give it a color a var color of primary color. Yeah, this is fine. And again, let's direction. Yes, this is it. And we are slowly getting there. We are going to give it a margin bottom. A margin bottom. So let's give it a margin bottom. First of all, I need to like select elements title. Okay. So we are going to select actually this should come under this. But title, I'm going to give this a okay a color of hashtag. This is fine. Then we are going to give it a font size to 4 rem. You can see like that stuff that I told you about. I think for it's much. 3 is fine. And I'm going to give it a okay, I'm going to give it a general font family. Then in here, I'm going to give it a margin bottom of 5 pixels. And that's it, small, small. Yeah. Wow. So this meeting is getting unbelievably long, very long. So I'm just going to try to rush it up a bit. So this is what happens when you do CSS. Like there are a lot of things that you need to work on and things that you need to fix. You know, you need to make them look good and look nice. So once we fix this, then we'll be ending and we'll continue up in our next class because this is like already 30 minutes past our time. Yeah, so we'll continue this in our next class because this was just for you to have an idea of like how CSS works and how to work with CSS. But this is now getting a little bit long. So I'm just going to work on this now. You can see that they are a bit like they are not on the same line, right? So I'm going to try and make them to be on the same line. So to do that, I'm going to have to select it. So it has label. So I'm going to select the fourth child of this form element. Well, not really the fourth child though. Let me just let me give this a class of class of box box. I'm going to give it a property of display is going to be inline. Okay. Not not this actually. Yeah. So this is I selected this increase rather and I gave it a class of checkbox. So I think now I have to work on the space between them and align it properly. So let's see how it is structured. Um, the label element. It is inside the label element. Okay. Okay. I think I would have to end this here because this is already 11:34. This would like take me a lot of time to figure out how to do it and push it together. So I would have to end here because this is like way past the time. I'm going to move on to the next slide now, which is like almost end of the slide. So if you have any questions, this is what we are going to do because it's really past way past the time. So if you have any questions that you'd like to ask, please drop them on the Slack and I will attend to them. I promise I'll attend to them. This is 11:34 and I don't want you to like get so worked up. But this is an exam. Having 30 minutes one hour class now. This is like the real deal. So I know you have a lot of questions. So drop them for me on Slack. Drop them for those questions. I'm going to create a thread right now. Let me go ahead and create it. I'm going to create it in random channel. So you all can see this, right? At channel, drop your questions in the thread. So you can go ahead and drop your questions in the thread for me. Just drop your questions. If you have any question, you can drop them and I'll reply to them via text. But for now, thank you for joining this class. We are going to continue next time and we're going to finish that up next time. Okay? There's a lot of questions asked, I know, but just drop them in the thread for me. Have a good night rest, everybody. Just going to stop recording.